Hey everyone, and welcome to another Marks & Crafts figurine review. As you can probably tell already, this one is going to be One Piece themed. As you may or may not know already, I have started a little bit of a social experiment that I'm calling One Piece a Day, where as a sort of making up for lost time sort of thing of not ever really getting into One Piece, I thought I should finally get into it, and basically I wanted to do that in the most confusing way possible, which was to read one chapter of the manga a day until I catch up to where the manga is currently. I estimated that will take about 3.2 years to catch up to where the manga will be in 3 years, and take me the better part of 3 years to catch up to where it was when I started. So anyway, I am almost, as of recording this video, I am almost 100 chapters deep into the series. I am starting to love it, and I have been trying to catch up on some merch. Obviously, for a series that's been running for well over 20 years, there is a lot of merch to see, as well as a lot of rare and expensive merch. So seeing as I missed most things and everything else is pre-owned, I thought I'd try and get in on the ground floor by buying these Ichiban Kuji figures. Now, Ichiban Kuji, if you're unfamiliar with it, they're basically a merchandise or figurine lottery in Japan. You go to any convenience store, some other hobby shops have it as well. You buy a ticket valued at a certain amount, or multiple tickets valued at a certain amount, pick them out randomly, peel off the ticket, and it will reveal a letter, and that letter indicates the prize that you get. For example, the Luffy that we're looking at right now is the B prize. The low prizes might be plates or towels and things like that, but you are always guaranteed a prize, and basically it's a big gamble. What that also means is that all the figures don't have a specific monetary value. It's all what the market sort of decides for it. So to get figurines like this, I went on to Yahoo Auctions and was very successful in getting a bunch of these. They have since risen in price because they've become more rare, or some figures are more common than others and things like that. But basically you can only win these via a lottery or on secondhand resale. Sometimes they sell these separately, like the giant Broly figure I looked at my Christmas unboxing. That's what's called an Ichiban Sho, which is an Ichiban Kuji figure that is sold officially and separately later on. But not every Ichiban Kuji figure becomes an Ichiban Sho. Sometimes you have to look for them. But anyway, that's a little bit of a backstory of Ichiban Kuji. Basically, at the end of the day, they're prize figures. Usually a little bit better detail than a regular Crane Game prize, but sometimes they are very similar. Anyway, these One Piece figures that I'll be looking at today are very similar to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Kuji figures that I looked at not too long ago, the Yugi Kaiba and Blue Eyes. In particular, very similar to the Yugi and Kaiba, where they have simple black bases, a little bit of effect, as well as an acrylic backing. And the acrylic backing is very important to the figures, as you'll see in a moment. Part of the reason why I wanted this figure set in particular is because of Oda's 100 volume celebration artwork, which is plastered on all of the boxes for this Kuji set, and is the main theme of the figurines of this Kuji, as you no doubt have sort of pieced together, as I hope you have pieced together from a lot of the B-roll of this video. So anyway, we'll be looking at all of these figures, and there are 7 in the set. I am nowhere near any of these points in the manga, so yes, some things have been spoiled for me. Look, the whole reason why I got into the manga, besides feeling a miss of nostalgia and things like that, is because I saw Yamato's design and I really love her design and aesthetic. I was just going to buy her figure from this Kuji by itself, but I do like to complete sets, so I bought all of them. So anyway, I digress. We're going to look through these One Piece figures one at a time. So we're going to start with Luffy. Alright, so here we are. This is the B prize figurine Luffy. I might not go through all the letters for the figures because don't really need to. But basically this is the absolute core of the collection. Has the best looking base, probably has the most important acrylic backing, and a very iconic and dynamic pose. So again, this is based off the 100 volume celebration artwork, and basically the whole theme of it is to make that artwork real with the acrylic back, but also choose one key character in any section of that artwork and make them an actual 3D figure. So obviously in this case it's Luffy. You can see his base has got some gold coins and a bunch of other treasure, which is nice. He's pretty well detailed, but he's not perfect. He is very visibly still a prize figure. Some of the coloring's okay. I'm not a big fan of the coloring on the scar on his chest, because I have seen other things where it's a lot more pronounced, but generally pretty alright. I do like the detail on the hat on his back, because it's nice and weathered and textured and things like that, but it's also got the scars from when Buggy slashed his hat right at the start of the series. So that's pretty cool. You can see that most of the acrylic background for these are the straw hats. So we've got Zoro, Chopper, Nami, Sanji, Jinbei, Brook, Nico Robin, and Usopp hidden behind Zoro. In one of the other ones there is Frankie, and you can see a few other characters in the back. I'm not super familiar with everyone right now, I just sort of know the core straw hats. But yeah, pretty cool figure. It does have a support base to hold up his knee, and I guess he might sag over time because he is at an angle. So yeah, it's probably a good choice that they did that. Some of the paint's a little bit messy, but it's not really too much of a worry. The main viewing angle is perfectly fine. The main texture of it all does feel very plasticky and overall kind of cheap, but look, it's not too, like, it is a raffle prize and it is a prize figure at the end of the day. It's nothing too crazy. Really, it's very easy to forgive stuff like that, because it's the general aesthetics of the whole that is important. I probably won't spend as much time on every other figure, but I will show you like B-roll and things like that of what I think of them all. Most of them are all of the same quality. There are a few more noticeable errors on some of them, but generally they're all quite good. So next up is Sabo. Now, Sabo, I don't know too much about him. I know his relationship to Luffy, but I've tried to stay a bit away from what his sort of role in it all is, because it was well beyond where I watched up to. And you can see once again, pretty well detailed. There's a nice flame effect on his pole, or his crowbar, whatever it is, on his knee and on his hand. There is some minor assembly for all of these figures, but they're all pretty straightforward. I am a little worried about paint transferring and scratching over time, but it should be okay. And you can see another really well detailed acrylic backing. There's Frankie up there against Kid. Yeah, not bad. One criticism I do have of these acrylic backs, not all of them sort of connect the image correctly. Like, all of the figures slot in together, but there are massive gaps in some of the acrylic, as you'll probably see over the course of this video. So next up is Ace, who, when I was watching the series originally, was probably my favorite character. He's got a pretty nice dynamic pose. Originally I thought he looked a little bit funky, but it's mainly just because he's crouched down in a sort of action pose. The flames work really nicely on him. I really like the detail and clear plastic on his arm, and the leg one looks nice how it wraps around a bit, and there's a bit of a flame effect on the acrylic behind him, which flows very nicely. See Whitebeard and Marco in the background, as well as a few others like Smoker and Tashigi. A lot of the detail of Ace is quite nice, like his tattoos. They even did some of the one on his back, even though it's obscured by his hat. His hat looks okay, but I have seen much better ones in other figures. But again, this is a prize figure at the end of the day. And yeah, looks pretty good. I think they captured him quite well in this figure. And next up is, to my understanding, a fairly recent character in the core One Piece series. And by like fairly recent, probably mean like the last couple of years. But this is Carrot, and I believe this is her transformed form, which I don't believe they've done a figurine of before this one. and I really liked her look. It's a simple sort of design, but it's very cool, and the pose that they chose for this one is very dynamic. Really like it. There's some cool shading on her hair, and just a really cool aesthetic. She's got a sort of evilish smirk, and her eyes look really nice and dark. There are little paint areas here and there, but I quite like the figure, and I also like the sort of pose and actual angle that it stands at. Once it's all set up, you can see more of the acrylic. So there's Blackbeard, Garp, there's Buggy in the back, and Shanks way in the back. So it's cool, and quite like that one. Now next up is Boa, and now I would talk more about these figures and the characters and things like that, but again, I'm not really that far into the series yet, so there's only so much I can talk about. Boa, I quite like her design usually. The figure itself, I don't, from what I've seen of her in other figures and merch, as well as like art, I don't think this one looks like her so much in the face. It is still a nice figure and everything like that. This is also probably the weakest of the figures in the set, and that's mainly because of how she plugs into the base. And I'll see if I can show it. It's probably better from this angle. So she connects via her foot and into the wooden plank. Unfortunately, the distance between her dress and her foot is too big, so there's a massive gap and she doesn't plug in correctly, so I am worried that she will break over time, because this is a pretty simple peg and she is pretty heavy as a figure. So yeah, I'm a little worried about that. Otherwise, pretty nice. I like the little love heart effect and how you don't really notice it from the angle that you view it from, because they cleverly hid the effect grabbing onto her hand from behind. And again, more acrylic in the back. There's Doflamingo and Crocodile. There's her snake, and someone that I don't know from when I wasn't watching the series. But yeah, not bad. Not a bad angle either. Again, I am worried about the dress because of this angle. And next we have Trafalgar Law. Similar to Ace, pretty well detailed. It probably also helps that his outfit is one of the more complicated ones, so some nice detailing on his pants. There's 2 shades of paint, so it's nice and detailed. Good ruffles. His coat is also shaded. Nice tattoos. Good detail work on his hands, although there are some paint issues. His face looks good. Hat's nice. Tattoo on his chest is good. His sheathed sword looks nice, and he's got a nice little acrylic background. Again, I don't know a lot of these characters yet, but I do know Mihawk, or at least very basically know Mihawk. But yeah, it's a pretty good one, and nice little figurine. And now the last one, which is the reason why I bought this in the first place. Now we have Yamato, which is the whole reason why I bought this Kuji. Originally I was just going to buy her by herself, but I didn't like how the acrylic just cut off suddenly, which is funny because once you line them all up, this is the end of the acrylic design. It goes this way, it goes off this way, not that way. So the problem wouldn't have been solved anyway. Figure is really awesome, really dynamic. This is the first figurine released of Yamato that is dynamic, apart from her Figure Art Zero, which came out a bit after this one. But it's her first dynamic one and looks really nice. There's a nice shading in her pants. It's ruffled really cool. I love her outfit, her whole design structure, sort of like kimono haori thing, really well detailed. Like the little markings, like this big bow at the back, how her hair transitions into multiple colors. It's not just like a simple aqua type thing. There's even a darker aqua color right at the end. Her horns aren't super vibrant, but there is a bit of a transition in them. Her expression's nice, like her mace. Just get in on her face. There are some paint errors on her face, which does hurt it a bit, but thankfully they are masked by the main viewing angle, so that's okay. Just a little bit of a shame. And you can see some nice detail on her sandals and legs. And the acrylics are one of the more intricate ones, just because there's some at the front and some at the back. Again, not super familiar with the characters, but I know Big Mom and Kaido and Odin. So yeah, she's the reason why I got this Kuji. I think she's fantastic. She's part of the reason why I've decided to get into One Piece. She's also probably the reason why my wallet's hurting so much right now, as you'll probably find out in due time, as I try and become an instant One Piece fan, or an instant fake fan, with all the merch I've got. Yeah, I totally have been supporting the franchise for years. But yeah, she's opened up the gateway that I almost regret getting into now. But look, it is a fantastic series. This is a great figure. The entire set of figures is great as well. But I think Yamato especially is something important in this whole set. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty cool set. If you can get a hold of them for a good price, yeah, go for it. But don't overspend just to complete the set, because One Piece figures can become insane if you want to complete sets. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Really like it all. Don't know how I'm going to display it. At some point I will. These are going to go back in the box for now, but I do plan to do something later on. But yeah, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you all next time.